It started as a night like any other. A few drinks, a few friends. Summer heat hanging thick over Bloomington, Indiana. But by morning, a quiet panic was growing. And by nightfall, the name Lauren Spierer would echo across the country. A 20-year-old Indiana University student. Blonde, tiny, just under 5 feet tall. Bright-eyed and full of life. And then, gone. No one saw her leave. No one saw her fall. But someone, somewhere, knows why Lauren never came home. Before we dive into this case, take a moment to subscribe to Crime Vault. Turn on notifications. Because what you're about to hear is more than a missing person story. It's a haunting look into silence, privilege, and the dark secrets hidden in College Town streets. June 3, 2011. Lauren had just wrapped up her sophomore year. She was majoring in fashion merchandising, popular, the kind of person whose smile stayed with you. That night, she texted friends. Plans to party. Normal stuff. Her boyfriend, Jesse, wasn't with her. He was out of town. So Lauren was on her own, meeting friends, bar hopping, celebrating summer. She left her apartment barefoot. Her shoes, her phone, her ID, all left behind. It was supposed to be a short night. It wasn't. She met up with Corey Rossman at Kilroy Sports Bar around 1:30 a.m. Surveillance showed Lauren smiling, wobbling slightly. She looked intoxicated. Corey, a friend of a friend, had been drinking too. At 2:30 a.m., the two were seen leaving the bar. She wasn't wearing shoes. Her purse was missing. It didn't matter. They walked back to her apartment, changed clothes, then left again, together. By 3 a.m., Lauren and Corey were at his place, Smallwood Plaza, a secure apartment building with cameras. Surveillance footage shows them arriving, laughing, leaning on each other. But then, something changed. Corey was reportedly punched by another student during an argument in the hallway. Witnesses later said he seemed dazed, confused, possibly suffering from memory loss. Lauren, visibly drunk, was now alone with a man who couldn't recall the night. At 3:30 a.m., she left with another friend, Michael Beth. They walked to his place, just a block away. But at 4:15 a.m., Lauren left again. Alone. No phone. No shoes. No protection. Jay Rosenbaum, a friend of Michael's, said he saw her last. She stopped by his apartment briefly, asking to call someone. He says he declined. That she walked out his door toward 11th Street. But here's the problem. No camera ever captured her again. No one else ever saw her. And Jay never called the police. By 11 a.m., Lauren's roommate panicked. She hadn't come home. Her bed was empty. Her belongings untouched. Calls were made. By noon, her parents were on a plane from New York. And by nightfall, flyers papered every inch of Bloomington. But something was off. The boys she'd spent the night with? They didn't call police. They didn't organize searches. They waited, claimed confusion, said they were drunk, didn't think anything was wrong. Police started asking questions. The timelines didn't add up. Memories became blurry. Details faded. Corey claimed he couldn't remember anything after the punch. Michael Beth said Lauren left on her own. Jay Rosenbaum said he watched her leave, but no one could explain where she went next. Rumors swirled. That Lauren overdosed. That someone panicked. That a group of students decided their futures mattered more than one girl's life. A local landfill was searched for weeks. Cadaver dogs swept the woods. Canines picked up faint trails that vanished near the river. No body, no clothing, not a trace. Her pacemaker, a device that should have pinged medical records? Nothing. It was like Lauren had evaporated. In the weeks that followed, private investigators were hired. A billboard went up. Missing Lauren Spierer. Someone knows something. But those who were with her that night refused polygraphs. Lawyers were hired. Social media was scrubbed. One anonymous tip came in. A whisper. That Lauren had died in an apartment. That her body had been hidden. And that no one would talk because they were too connected. Too privileged. Too afraid. In 2016, a skeleton was found near Martinsville, Indiana. Young. Female. Speculation exploded. Was it Lauren? It wasn't. Another dead end. Her parents begged for honesty. They went on national television. They confronted friends. Nothing. Until 2021. 10 years after Lauren vanished, a new tip surfaced. A man, a known offender, living just blocks from where Lauren disappeared. Police questioned him. He denied everything, but his past told a different story. And when asked if he remembered that night, he said something chilling. I didn't touch her, but I know who might have. He never said another word. The file went cold again. So what happened to Lauren Spierer? Was she the victim of a tragic accident and a cowardly cover-up? Or was she targeted? Had someone been watching her all night? And what about the witness who came forward in 2023, claiming to have heard a girl screaming that night near the railroad tracks? Could it be real? Or just another ghost in a town full of them? The campus town of Bloomington, Indiana woke up to headlines it never thought it would see. IU student missing without a trace. Flyers with Lauren Spierer's face plastered every lamppost, coffee shop door, and dormitory board. Her smile, bright, effortless, became a ghostly echo of a night no one could explain. The search exploded. Hundreds of volunteers, students, parents, even strangers, combed through woods, parks, alleyways. Local police joined forces with the FBI. Helicopters swept across the skyline. Cadaver dogs traced the air. But what they didn't find was even more terrifying than what they might have uncovered. Not a shoe, not a phone, not a piece of fabric, nothing. And in the center of it all stood a group of young men, Lauren's last known companions, friends who gave conflicting stories, witnesses who remembered details just a little too perfectly, and a silence that grew more suspicious with every passing hour. Jesse Wolfe, Lauren's boyfriend, had stayed in that night. He had told Lauren he was angry she'd gone out drinking again, especially given her health. She had a heart condition. She was on medication. Mixing alcohol was dangerous. Lauren went anyway. But Jesse wasn't the only one harboring resentment. Back at the townhouse where Lauren was last seen, the morning after she vanished, a neighbor overheard voices through the wall. Arguing. Panicked. One male voice said, "We shouldn't have let her go." Another replied, "She was already gone. What else were we supposed to do?" The police interviewed them. The boys were cooperative, polite, practiced. They said Lauren had left alone. They said she was intoxicated, but insisted she was lucid. They said they didn't see where she went. But phone records told another story. Between 4:30 a.m. and 4:45 a.m., A critical 15-minute window. One of the men, Corey Rossman, received 3 calls, all from the same number. When questioned, he claimed he didn't remember those calls, claimed he was too drunk to notice. But what if he wasn't drunk? What if the calls were warnings? Or worse, instructions? The surveillance footage, grainy and dark, showed Lauren stumbling near an intersection alone. Or so it seemed, because in the frame before she disappears behind a building, a second figure emerges. A shadow, a movement, then nothing. The footage cuts off. Police never identified that shadow. They claimed it was too blurry. But an independent forensic analyst said otherwise. He enhanced the frame, and behind Lauren, walking 6 paces behind, was a tall figure in a hoodie. Male, white, facial outline, closely matching one of the men from that townhouse. But no charges were filed. Why? Lauren's parents begged for answers. They held vigils, press conferences, interviews. They released personal texts, photos, letters Lauren wrote home. They hoped anyone would speak. But the silence in Bloomington became deafening. And then, 3 months after Lauren vanished, a message appeared on a web forum. Anonymous. Single post. I know what happened to the girl. I can't say it here. But she didn't die the way they think. The river's a lie. It started in the townhouse. It ended somewhere cleaner. The IP was traced to a public library. Security footage? Erased. But the phrasing stuck with investigators. The river's a lie. Because early in the search, a theory had spread that Lauren had fallen into the White River and drowned. But no drag team found a body. No clothes. Not even a scrap. Why would someone refer to the river as a lie unless they knew it never happened? Unless they were there? 1 year later, a witness stepped forward. A sanitation worker. He claimed that 2 days after the disappearance, he saw a black SUV parked behind a strip mall at dawn. No license plate. Just 2 men and a large rolled carpet. He said it looked heavy. He reported it at the time. Police didn't follow up, but the FBI did. The area had no cameras, no physical evidence. But a carpet store 3 units down had logged a transaction. 1 buyer. Cash. Late night. And the name on the receipt? Fake. But matched a known alias used by a man connected to one of Lauren's last companions. Lauren's case became a spiderweb, everyone connected, everyone pointing fingers, everyone hiding just enough to stay out of reach. And in the center of that web was a secret none of them dared speak. Because in 2014, 3 years after Lauren's disappearance, another girl went missing near the same area. Different age, different appearance, same pattern. Last seen drunk, last seen with friends, last seen near those same townhouses. She was later found, bruised, unconscious, but alive. She had been drugged, dumped. She couldn't remember the faces, but she remembered one thing: a scent. Cologne. Expensive. Sharp. The same scent Lauren's roommate once said she hated. The same scent one of the boys used. So, was Lauren the first victim? Or part of something darker? Something serial? The files remain open. The search continues. But Bloomington still whispers, still wonders. And somewhere, someone knows the truth. Because monsters don't vanish. They hide. The walls of silence didn't crack. They thudded softly, like fists hitting a padded cell. It had been over a week since Lauren vanished into the Bloomington night. Posters fluttered in the summer breeze. Her smiling face now haunted every corner of Indiana University. But behind the search parties, the candlelight vigils, and the cheerful interviews, something colder was brewing. Because while her parents begged for answers, a group of young men locked their lips and their stories. And one of them, quietly, left town. Corey Rossman. The name came up again and again. Lauren was last seen with him, stumbling toward her apartment. Her keys, phone, and shoes gone. But Corey? He claimed he didn't remember anything. Said he had been punched that night at Kilroy's. Memory loss, he insisted. A blank space where Lauren once was. But his friend, Mike Beth, told a different version. Mike said Corey came home to their shared apartment sometime after 2:30 a.m. without Lauren. That he had helped Corey into bed and never saw Lauren again. The problem? Mike's own timeline had gaps. Hours of inactivity. And then a phone wipe. Clean. Was it just a coincidence? Or were they all hiding something darker? And then came Jesse Wolfe, Lauren's boyfriend. He hadn't been out that night. He hadn't even texted her until the next morning, when he woke up and realized she never came home. But Jesse's response didn't sit right with some investigators. Calm, almost rehearsed, and he never joined the public searches. Instead, Jesse lawyered up. So did Corey, and Mike, and Jay Rosenbaum, the last known person to see Laura alive. All four of them, within 48 hours, had retained attorneys. Lauren's father, Robert Spierer, went public with his frustration. If you have nothing to hide, why get a lawyer? But the silence only deepened. Jay Rosenbaum's story raised even more questions. He said Lauren had left his apartment alone around 4:30 a.m., intoxicated, disoriented, barefoot. Heading home? To her unlocked apartment? In the dark? No CCTV footage captured her walking those final blocks. No witness saw her on that path. And strangely, Jay claimed he looked out the window after she left and saw nothing. No one. Just silence. But Jay lived just 2 blocks from her complex. Could she have really vanished in that short, exposed distance? Or did she never leave? A forensic team swept the apartment. No blood. No struggle. No signs of Lauren. But a neighbor would later recall hearing something odd that morning. Around 4:45 a.m. A thud. A heavy thud. And a voice, low, frantic, saying, "Should just help me." But no one investigated it. Not then. And by the time police followed up, the tenant had moved out. The Spierer family dug deeper. Private investigators. Phone experts. Behavioral analysts. One report suggested Lauren may have overdosed. That the boys panicked. Hid her body to avoid legal consequences. Another theory? Foul play. Intentional harm disguised as an accident. But both versions had one common thread. Someone knew and wasn't talking. Then nearly 6 months later, a break. A skull fragment was found near the White River in Indiana. Blonde hair. Female. For days, speculation ignited like wildfire. Was it Lauren? Was her story finally coming to an end? The DNA came back. Not Lauren. The heartbreak returned. But something else came with it. A new tip. From someone who had been silent for years. A former IU student, anonymous, claimed that in the fall of 2011, a friend of Corey Rossman's confessed to something chilling at a party. She overdosed. They freaked. Dumped her. The anonymous tipper didn't want to give a name. Said the friend transferred schools shortly after. Moved to Colorado. The timeline matched. So did the name investigators already had on file. But by the time they tracked him down, he was gone. Left his apartment days earlier. No forwarding address. A second ghost in a story filled with shadows. Meanwhile, a surveillance photo resurfaced. From a dumpster cam 2 blocks from Corey's apartment. Timestamp, 4:59 a.m. 2 figures. One tall, one shorter, dragging something. The footage was grainy. The faces blurred. But the bag? Long, heavy. Too long to be trash. The footage was dismissed by Bloomington PD as inconclusive. But Lauren's mother saw it differently. That wasn't trash. That was my daughter. By 2014, whispers began to grow louder. That Lauren's case wasn't just a mystery. It was a cover-up. Too many lawyers. Too many clean phones. Too much money. And in the background, influence. Families with ties to power. Alumni connections. Quiet pressure. Every time the Spierers pushed, walls came up. Witnesses recanted. Evidence vanished. Leads went cold. Or were made cold. Someone, it seemed, was erasing Lauren again and again. But in 2016, a bold new step was taken. The Spierer family filed a civil lawsuit against the men last seen with Lauren. Not to win money, to force answers, to put them under oath, to finally break the silence. But the judge dismissed the case on technical grounds. No body, no proof of harm, no evidence of conspiracy, no justice. Years passed, but the story never faded. Lauren's case became a symbol for every woman who vanished without a trace. A warning that even in a town full of cameras, crowds, and parties, someone can disappear, and no one will speak. But that silence might finally be cracking, because in 2023, a tip arrived from someone inside a detox center. She claimed a man checked in under the name LW, and during a late-night session, he sobbed. Said he watched her die, that he held the door shut while they decided what to do, that he'd kept the secret for 12 years. The woman didn't know his full name, but she remembered the tattoo on his arm, a red circle with 3 small lines underneath, a fraternity mark, Sigma Chi, the same frat that Corey and Mike once pledged. So what really happened to Lauren Spierer that night? Did she overdose? Was she harmed? Did someone carry her out in a bag, while others stayed silent? And who, after all these years, finally whispered the truth? The Spierer family still waits, still wonders, still hopes. And you? The woods behind Bloomington's waterworks plant were quiet that morning. Just trees, rustling leaves, and birds too indifferent to tragedy. But for investigators combing through the underbrush, the silence had a weight, like it was hiding something, a presence, something watching. It had been weeks since Lauren Spierer vanished. Leads had grown cold. Witnesses closed ranks. But one name, whispered in dark corners, kept resurfacing. Corey Rossman, the last known person to see Lauren alive. The one who walked her home. The one who said he didn't remember. But what if he did? because new information had emerged quietly, almost fearfully, from someone who didn't want to be named. A former Indiana University student, now living out of state, claimed that Corey had confided something to a mutual friend in the days after Lauren disappeared. He didn't say he hurt her, but he said, "I did something stupid," and that he wasn't alone. Corey had always claimed he blacked out that night, said a punch from a student in the Smallwood lobby erased his memory. But security footage told a different story. He walked, talked, helped Lauren to her building, then to another apartment, and then disappeared from view. The footage didn't show fear. It showed calculation. So was the blackout a lie? A cover for something darker? And then there's this. The phone call. 1:57 a.m. A 45-second call made from Corey's phone to a contact listed only as J. The number? Disconnected now. But when traced through old billing records, it pinged to a disposable cell phone activated 2 weeks before Lauren vanished and deactivated the morning after. No one had ever asked Corey about the call. Until now. Investigators approached him again. He declined to speak. His lawyer called it harassment. But behind closed doors, another story began to leak. A second student, this one a former fraternity brother, came forward. Quietly. He didn't want press. Didn't want fame. Just relief. He claimed that the night before Lauren vanished, Corey had argued with someone at a party. Someone who'd accused him of being too close to Lauren, of putting her in danger. The accuser? A mutual friend. Someone who, according to this witness, saw things he wasn't supposed to. And now, that friend no longer lived in Indiana. No forwarding address. No social media. Gone. Just like Lauren. A private investigator hired by the Spierer family had been tracking these threads for months. And one day, something broke loose. An anonymous letter, delivered to the family's attorney. No return address. Just one sentence inside. Search the lake near Marlin Hills. She's not whole anymore. The area was remote, not part of the initial search zone. And strangely, it wasn't new. In 2011, just days after Lauren disappeared, cadaver dogs had alerted near that same lake. But the tip was dismissed. The property belonged to someone with ties to the university. Someone whose name never made it into the press. Now, 10 years later, the lake was still untouched. And the cadaver dogs were brought again. They alerted. Again. Divers went in. What they found wasn't a body, but it was something. A piece of cloth. Blue. Tattered. Partially buried in the lake bed. Tests later confirmed it once belonged to a blue zip-up hoodie, a piece Lauren had been seen wearing in earlier photos. Was it hers? And if it was, why was it there? The hoodie reignited a new line of investigation and led police to revisit another name, Jesse Wolfe, Lauren's boyfriend. He had always maintained he went to bed early that night. Didn't go out. Didn't know where Lauren had gone. But a strange inconsistency had haunted the original files. At 2:47 a.m., Jesse's phone received a text. One word. Help. It was never reported. Jesse never mentioned it. Investigators only found it after seizing phone records in 2012. By then, the message was long deleted. When asked about it later, Jesse claimed he never saw it. Said it must have come from spam. Said he had nothing to hide. But the number that sent the message? It matched Lauren's phone. So what really happened that night? Was Lauren panicking? Did she try to reach someone she trusted? And why did no one ever call her back? Jesse stopped cooperating in 2012. Said he was tired of being treated like a suspect. Said he'd moved on. But when shown a photo of the blue hoodie in 2025, he went pale. He whispered she never took that out with her. Then asked to leave. The Spierers, desperate, grieving, pushed for more. More searches. More questions. But Indiana State Police said there was no new evidence. The case remained open. But unofficially, they considered it cold. Until a call came in. Blocked number. Distorted voice. I saw her that night. She didn't walk away. She was carried. Click. No trace. But the voice had sounded young, shaken, real. So who carried Lauren? Where did they take her? And why has the truth remained buried for over a decade? Because someone knows. Someone has always known. And soon their silence will be broken. The autumn leaves had begun to fall in Bloomington, casting a soft hush over the town, a cruel contrast to the growing storm beneath its surface. It had been months since Lauren Spierer vanished into the night, and though her face still adorned flyers stapled to every lamppost, her name whispered in candlelight vigils and courtrooms, something had shifted. People had stopped asking where Lauren was. They had started asking why no one was talking. The silence had become suffocating. In the months following Lauren's disappearance, her parents had become relentless advocates, sacrificing everything to demand answers. Every camera they faced, every interview they gave, every tear they shed, it wasn't just for their daughter. It was a plea, a warning. There are people who know what happened, her mother said, and they are choosing to remain silent. It wasn't just a theory. It was a truth. They could feel it. The FBI had quietly re-interviewed everyone in Lauren's known orbit that night. And one by one, things began to unravel. There was the matter of surveillance footage, meticulously reviewed, frame by frame. Lauren walking unsteadily through the lobby of Smallwood Plaza. But there was no footage of her ever leaving. Only theories, claims. Why? Because the security camera facing the alley behind the apartment building, where Lauren was supposedly last seen, had mysteriously stopped recording between 4:15 and 5 a.m. Exactly when Lauren vanished. Coincidence? Or cover-up? And then there was the phone call. One of the boys, never officially named, but confirmed to be part of the last group to see Lauren, had received a call at 4:26 a.m., less than 10 minutes after Lauren was said to have left the apartment barefoot and intoxicated. The call lasted 37 seconds. The number? A prepaid burner phone. No name attached. No record of ownership. And that call has never been explained. Not by him. Not by anyone. Lauren's friend group began to fracture. What once looked like unity, the collective grief of friends, soon revealed itself as guarded silence, hushed meetings, deleted messages, lawyers. Some of them had even moved out of town within weeks of her disappearance. One withdrew from IU entirely. The Spierers kept asking, why? Why would innocent friends of a missing girl need criminal defense attorneys? Why would their stories change over time? Why had some of them lawyered up before they'd even been accused? And most of all, why weren't the police saying more? A grand jury was convened in secret. Witnesses were called. Subpoenas issued. But in the public eye, silence. And in that silence, rumors flourished. One former IU student came forward anonymously, claiming he had attended a party a week after Lauren vanished, at a house known for wild, drug-fueled nights. He said he overheard two men bragging in hushed voices that someone OD'd and had to be taken care of. They said she wasn't breathing, that they couldn't call the cops, that someone dumped her. When asked if the name Lauren was mentioned, the witness paused, then said, not directly, but they said, the blonde from Union Street. And we all knew who that was. The theory gained traction. Lauren had heart conditions. She was on prescription medication. That night, she had been drinking heavily. Some said she may have ingested drugs, possibly unknowingly. What if she overdosed? What if someone panicked? What if, instead of calling for help, they disposed of her? It would explain the silence, the fear, the avoidance. And it would explain why, all these years later, no one has dared to break the code. Because it wasn't just about guilt. It was about reputation, about families, about legacy. Many of the young men in question came from affluence, influence, and in towns like Bloomington, that still meant something. But then came the breaking point. In October 2012, over a year after Lauren's disappearance, a private investigator working for the Spierer family uncovered a chilling piece of evidence buried in a series of anonymous tips. It was a map, unlabeled, hand-drawn, just a rough sketch of terrain, trees, and one note scribbled in red ink. South Fork, 3.2 miles. You'll find her near the broken tree. No fingerprints. No return address. But one detail stood out. A broken tree, exactly 3.2 miles from the center of Bloomington, near the banks of the South Fork Salt Creek. A search was conducted. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Something alerted. But before they could excavate further, torrential rains washed through the site. By the time the area was safe to dig again, whatever scent the dogs had caught was gone. Still, the message was clear. Someone knew. Someone had tried to tell the truth. But even now, they remained in the shadows. Lauren's case remains unsolved. Her parents still wait, still beg for closure. And Bloomington still bears the scar of a night it can't explain. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because just as the trail grew cold, someone made contact. A letter, delivered anonymously to a local journalist. No name, just a short message. I didn't kill her, but I know who did. And the body isn't where you think. The letter ended with a single phrase. Don't look in the water. Look in the walls. Walls? What walls? And who would write something like that, unless they knew the truth? And so the mystery deepens. Because maybe Lauren Spierer didn't just disappear. Maybe she was erased. And maybe, just maybe, there's still time to bring that truth to light. But to do that, we have to go back. Back to the boys who stopped talking. Back to the night of June 3rd, 2011. And back to the one place the search teams never checked. A property now abandoned. Once owned by someone very close to the last people to see Lauren alive. What secrets still lie within those walls? And who, after all these years, still fears the truth enough to keep it hidden? Bloomington, Indiana. once a sleepy college town blanketed by tree-lined streets and the sounds of student life. But by late 2013, the name Lauren Spierer wasn't just etched into flyers or whispered in dorm rooms. It haunted every corner of the community. The posters were fading, the billboards weathered, but the pain, the questions, they were sharper than ever. It had been over 2 years since Lauren vanished into the blackness of June 3, 2011. And something strange was happening. People who once shouted for justice were falling silent. Neighbors stopped answering calls from reporters. Students who'd once partied with Lauren withdrew. And one name, in particular, began surfacing in hushed conversations around Bloomington. Corey Rossman. He was the last known person to see Lauren alive. Or, at least, that's what he claimed. But why was Corey now refusing to speak to investigators? Why did his attorney issue a public statement saying Corey had nothing more to add? And more importantly, what did Corey mean when he once told friends that Lauren was just a girl who made bad choices? That line didn't sit right. Not with Lauren's parents. Not with the police, and not with those still digging. One of those people was a former IU student named Evan Peterson. Evan lived just a few floors above Lauren during her freshman year. They weren't close, but they had friends in common. And in 2014, Evan told a local podcast something that never made the news. He remembered Lauren leaving Kilroy's sports bar the night she vanished. But he also remembered something else. I saw a car, he said, parked outside the alley near 11th and College. It was weird, like someone was waiting. Lights off, engine running. The car wasn't reported that night. But when Evan described it in detail, dark sedan, dent in the front bumper, Lauren's parents froze. Because several months after Lauren's disappearance, a private investigator hired by the Spierers had flagged a similar car parked outside the home of Jay Rosenbaum. Jay, Corey's friend. Jay, one of the last 2 people to see Lauren alive. Jay, who claimed he watched Lauren leave his apartment alone at 4:30 a.m. But if Evan was right, someone else might have been waiting. So who owned the car? And what were they waiting for? Before answers could come, Evan Peterson stopped talking. He pulled out of the podcast, deleted his social media, and when contacted again, refused to speak. Was it fear? Or something more? Because just weeks later, a report surfaced from IU campus security, anonymously leaked. The report was dated June 6, 2011, 3 days after Lauren vanished. It stated that a student dorm custodian had filed a complaint about an unusual smell in the trash chute of Smallwood Plaza. That's where Lauren lived. The report was never followed up. Why? Because Smallwood had already been cleared. But years later, private forensic analysts were granted limited access to archived building maintenance logs. And in one entry, dated June 4, 2011, less than 36 hours after Lauren's disappearance, there was a work order to replace a section of flooring in a 5th-floor trash room. No reason given. No damage report filed. No photographic record. But when one of the private analysts cross-referenced that floor's layout, the trash chute, it was less than 15 feet from Lauren's apartment door. Could something have happened in that building? Did Lauren ever make it back? The police didn't say, but someone else did. In 2015, a man incarcerated at Pendleton Correctional Facility sent an anonymous letter to the Spierer family. It was rambling, messy, part confession, part hallucination. But one line stood out. She didn't leave that place alive. They put her in a chute. They thought it was empty. There was no return address, no signature, just an envelope smeared in something that looked like motor oil. Was it a hoax? A cruel trick? Or a buried truth? As investigators tried to trace the letter's origin, another bombshell dropped. J. Rosenbaum moved. Quietly. Without public notice, he left Bloomington and relocated to Manhattan. Not just the city, a few blocks from where Lauren grew up. Was it coincidence? Or guilt? When confronted by reporters outside his new apartment, Jay refused to speak. He shut the door, closed the blinds, and disappeared. But days later, a new name emerged. A woman named Allison, claiming to have dated one of the men tied to that night, contacted a private blog anonymously. She said, "They know what happened. They all do. They made a pact. No one talks, not even to each other." She was asked why now, why speak out? Her answer? Because I'm scared. I think someone else might go missing. And then she vanished too. No follow-up, no trace. Just another ghost orbiting Lauren's case. So what really happened in Smallwood Plaza? Why did a janitor smell something, but no one investigate? Why did Jay and Corey fall silent? Why did a floor get repaired days after a disappearance? And who was in the car? The deeper the Spierer case goes, the darker it becomes. Layers of fear, of secrets, of loyalty to something more dangerous than the truth. And now, new evidence may suggest Lauren never left the building. But if that's true, who helped cover it up? And why has no one been held accountable? The answers may lie with someone close. Too close. It's been days since Lauren Spierer vanished. Her face is now printed on every lamppost, television screen, and cell phone in Bloomington. But it's not just a missing poster anymore. It's a symbol of a mystery that refuses to break. A truth that hides in plain sight. A campus town that whispers lies while wearing the mask of concern. We return to the beginning, to the last footsteps, to the final lie, and to the secret someone has kept buried. Until now. June 3rd, 2011, 4:30 a.m. A silver SUV turns onto 11th Street. Its headlights sweep across the quiet sidewalk, momentarily lighting the figure of a barefoot blonde girl, stumbling, arms wrapped around herself. Lauren. She's alone. But what the driver doesn't see, just seconds later, is the figure that steps out from the trees. Dark clothes, hood up, watching. The SUV passes. Lauren disappears into the night. That's the last confirmed sighting. But in the hours that followed, everything began to fracture. Corey Rossman, bruised, confused, claiming memory loss. Jesse Wolfe, Lauren's boyfriend, silent, barely involved in the search. And Jay Rosenbaum, the last person to admit seeing her, changing details each time he spoke. Lauren's parents began asking questions no one wanted to answer. Why were so many texts deleted from that night? Why did it take hours for friends to even notice she was missing? And why did none of them call 911? Days became weeks. Theories bloomed like weeds. Lauren overdosed and her friends panicked. She was abducted by someone who had followed her. She walked into the wrong house and never walked out. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Creek beds were drained. Abandoned construction sites scoured. Everywhere they searched led to one cruel constant: nothing. Until a private investigator unearthed something chilling. A security camera at a downtown alley, just 1 block from where Lauren vanished. The footage had been marked unrelated by local police. But frame by frame, enhanced and slowed, something emerged. 4:39 a.m., a black SUV pulls into the alley. 4 minutes later, a figure walks into frame. Thin, blonde, barefoot. It's Lauren. Then another figure. Larger, male, hoodie. He follows. Moments later, the SUV pulls out. The figure is gone. The license plate? Blocked by glare. The driver? Never identified. The footage? Never released to the public. The Spierer family, desperate for answers, pressed harder. And someone finally cracked. A former IU student, name withheld, stepped forward. He wasn't there that night, but said this. One of them confessed at a party. Said they dumped her body. Said it was an accident. But they couldn't go to jail for it. Too much to lose. Too much to lose. Like reputation, scholarships, freedom. Investigators returned to the group. Rossman, Rosenbaum, Wolf. But without a confession, without a body, they could do nothing. J. Rosenbaum lawyered up. Rossman left the state. Jesse distanced himself. And the town moved on. Except the Spierers never did. In 2016, a break came from an unlikely place. A former inmate at the Monroe County Jail. He claimed he was cellmates with someone who had been at that party. That person told him Lauren overdosed on a combination of cocaine and alcohol. Panicked, the group tried to revive her. When she didn't respond, they hid the body. The location? A now demolished building near 10th and College. By the time anyone looked, it was gone. The ground paved over. The past, quite literally, buried. And then a letter. It arrived at the Spierer home in 2019. No return address. Inside, just one sentence. She's not in the water. She's in the walls. Forensics found no prints. The ink traced to a generic office pen. The envelope purchased in bulk. But the wording? Specific. Chilling. Familiar. Back to that security camera footage. Back to the alley. Back to the building now torn down, which once had brick walls stuffed with old insulation and sealed in plaster. So where is Lauren Spierer? The most likely answer is one no one wants to say aloud. She died that night, not by murder, not by intent, but by a lethal mix of bad decisions, worse friends, and a town more interested in image than truth. And those who were with her? They didn't kill her. They buried her memory. But maybe they didn't bury it well enough. Because in March 2025, demolition began on an abandoned Greek lifehouse near campus. A contractor found something wedged inside the walls. Cloth. And beneath that, strands of blonde hair. DNA testing is underway. And the Spierers wait again. This case should have been solved in days. It's now been more than a decade. But the question isn't only where Lauren went. It's how many people had the chance to speak and chose not to. Someone knows. Maybe more than one. Maybe they'll talk. Maybe they'll carry it to their graves. But the past has a way of digging itself back up. And if that DNA matches, this story isn't over. It's just beginning. Stay subscribed to Crime Vault as we follow the DNA test results and reveal the name of the person who may have buried more than the truth.